So after a very long weekend of wrestling content followed by SummerSlam Night 1 and SummerSlam Night 2, tonight we have the tail end of our wrestling weekend with Monday Night Raw from Brooklyn, New York. This whole entire episode was mainly built around the whole Seth Rollins faction, which finally, after 4 months, has an official name. I know we all kind of theorize on what the official name would be. The official name, as it stands right now, is The Vision. That was given out by both Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. That is going to be the name going forward for this group. I don't hate it. I don't really have any thoughts about it. I think it kind of fits within the character of Seth Rollins. But regardless, Seth Rollins came out here to open off the show with Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman. Obviously, he made reference to the fact of how he fooled everybody with this whole ruse of the century. How really only two people knew of this ruse, one being his wife, Becky Lynch, and the second being his oracle, Paul Heyman. After a while, he gets interrupted by LA Knight, who starts asking the obvious questions as far as his injury goes, as far as how he essentially faked an injury to get out of a match with him at Saturday night's main event, and logically wants a championship match here tonight. And Seth at first kind of blows him off, starts walking towards the entrance ramp when Adam Pearce comes out and makes this match official for tonight, with the stipulation or the added sort of cherry on top that he is banning both Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker from ringside. So essentially, this is our main event match between Seth and LA Knight. Now, I thought of either two things. Either we get a new member added in this faction, or we get an interruption by CM Punk, because obviously CM Punk is not going to be thrilled because of, Seth Rollins essentially fucking him over at SummerSlam. And that's kind of what we got at the end of the show. We had CM Punk come in here and fuck over LA Knight, which then led to Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed coming out here to even out the odds, and they end up taking out both LA Knight and CM Punk. And it seems like the show is about to go off air when we get Roman Reigns, the OTC, to come out here once again to kind of even up the odds for the baby faces, but he gets taken out by all three men. And again, this week we get the Bronson Reed spot where he steals Roman Reigns' shoes once again and sort of adds to his collection of Roman Reigns' stolen shoes. I want to see a gimmick with Bronson Reed, because he's going around calling himself the tribal thief, the Shula Fala. I want to see a gimmick now with Bronson Reed where he essentially collects these fucking shoes of Roman Reigns as if they were Infinity Stones. He has different shoes for different occasions here. So we end off the night here with the Seth Rollins faction, the Vision, standing tall. So now for Clash in Paris, I have two sort of scenarios that are kind of going into my mind, because I would assume they did this whole angle at the end to potentially possibly write off Roman Reigns. But again, we don't know whether or not Roman Reigns is actually going to be written off 100%. We could get the match added of a 6-man tag at the Clash in Paris show between Seth, Braun, and Bronson against the babyfaces LA Knight, CM Punk, and potentially Roman Reigns. We could get that, or we could potentially get a title match instead between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and LA Knight, because obviously these two guys have a beef with not only Rollins but with each other, because essentially CM Punk fucked over LA Knight here tonight. So I could potentially see that also occurring at the Clash in Paris show. One thing that we're probably going to get at Clash in Paris as well is going to be Nikki Bella against Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. They had a segment here where I got to give the props to Becky, because she had a killer line about John Cena here, which was a cold ass line that garnered a big reaction. So again, Becky Lynch against Nikki Bella. I don't foresee Becky Lynch losing to Nikki Bella. This is going to be probably just a showcase match for both women, particularly Becky Lynch. Dominic Mysterio here against Dragon Lee, in which Dominic got helped by 3 Grande Americanos. So again, I begged the question last week, and I'm going to ask it again. What is the point of these continuing Grande Americanos? Because at this point, I am genuinely confused as to what we're building towards. And as far as Brock Lesnar, we did not get Brock Lesnar on this show. We got a reference to him as far as, how this whole thing with him and Triple H and everybody came about, what the whole because there was a lot of questions going into this whole entire episode of Raw. As far as Brock Lesnar, how did this come about? As soon as how did this come about? And Michael Cole really just mentioned the fact that he sat down with Triple H and Nick Khan earlier today and asked them, why now? Why did they bring Brock Lesnar back right now? And Triple H essentially told him that a few weeks ago they came towards Brock Lesnar and told him to come home. And Brock Lesnar said, of course, and that was it. That was that. I think if anything, you'll probably end up seeing Brock Lesnar this Friday night at SmackDown, because Cena is going to be present at SmackDown, and plus SmackDown is taking place in Canada. And in case you don't know, Brock Lesnar currently lives in Canada, so I would assume he might be present at that SmackDown taping. We also got a women's tag team match here between Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair against the Judgment Day once again for the tag team championships. I thought this was a fine match. I personally, I would prefer their SummerSlam match a little bit more. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair got the win here. So again, I don't really know who's going to take those titles off of them. Probably some makeshift tag team at this point to kind of stir up the tension between Alexa and Charlotte in the future. And lastly, we got some news here as far as Gunther, as far as his current status. It was reported earlier, I think by one of the dirt sheets, Gunther sustained sort of an injury towards his nose. And it was reported here by the WWE themselves that Gunther is going to be out for indefinite action. And I think at this point, this is probably a blessing in disguise, because Gunther right now, as it stands, really has nothing to do on Raw, because he's not going to be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. And anything as far as the mid-card would kind of feel inferior for Gunther. So at this point, I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise that he takes some time off and comes back, and whenever they need him, whenever they find a spot for him, they could just plug him back in. But that was your Raw after SummerSlam. Not really an eventful show here until we got to the main event segments. But post your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of Raw here tonight. And until next time, I will see all of you on the next one.